Hey, John Sonmez from SimpleProgrammer.com. So I got pretty inspired this weekend after going to this conference run by a guy named Elliot Hulse, who's a pretty big YouTuber. He's got about like 1.5 million subscribers on one of his channels and another like million on another channel. And anyway, this conference was called Non-Jobs, and it's basically this conference to kind of help. It's mostly geared towards young people, but to help you create your non-job, which is basically an entrepreneurship type of business. It was pretty cool. Did a lot of good content. I recommend it highly, but it was interesting because it really got me thinking, really got me inspired. That's why I'm making so many videos, mostly because of the cool people that I met there. Some really interesting people, especially in the fitness space. That are kind of fitness YouTubers there. One guy in particular that I met, really like, as soon as I record a YouTube video, the lawn guy's like, oh, I need to like mow in front of your house and break your sprinklers. So anyway, Brandon Carter, I'll give a shout out to him. You can check out his page. Awesome guy. So funny. Like when we started talking at the conference, we immediately made this connection, right? There was like this real fast connection developing between us, and I think, and it's a lot because of how we think, right? And I think it's because of the books that we read. So this was kind of interesting, right? So out of all the people that were there, I'm having this discussion with a lot of different people, and I'm hearing some of the things that Brandon is talking about, and I'm interested. So I'm like going over to hear about that, and then I start talking, and we're connecting, and it's because of the books that we read, which is really, really interesting. So this is where I'm going with all of this, is basically like, if you talk to someone who reads a lot of the right kinds of books, good books, not fiction books, good books that improve you, right? This is like getting mentors from a lot of really good people in the world, right? Who are super successful. If you do that, you start to develop this sort of mindset that leads to success. And this guy is super successful. He's running his own supplement line. He's got a YouTube channel with like 400,000 subscribers, a bunch of, that long guy, but anyway, he's got a bunch of success behind him. And you can just tell. Like, I knew instantly when I started talking to him, I was like, can I see your Audible book list? In fact, it was funny because we talked about basically like listening to Audible books on 3x speed, which I've mentioned before, I think in another video, but I do that all the time, right? Every time I'm going somewhere, driving in the car, I'm working out, I'm doing something, I'm listening to an audiobook on 3x speed. I've got a list of books that I've filtered that I know are the good ones, right? I don't want to ever waste my time reading crappy books. So I'm always going through books, always have new books on my Kindle that I'm reading pretty much every day. I usually get through like when I'm on a good pace, like 2 books a week, usually one audio and one written, one written one on my Kindle. Anyway, so where I'm getting with this, and just to finish up that story is basically, yeah, he pulled out his, we have our phones, we're sitting at this conference, and it's all these fitness people, right? It's like, and it's entrepreneurship, but me and him, we bust out our iPhones, right? And we're looking at the Audible app, and like, we're comparing books. We got this huge book list, and I'll tell you what, 70% of the books we read that we had on Audible were the same. There's like this set of books that are very, very valuable books. I recommend a lot of these on this channel, so listen up, because these are the books that I guarantee you, it's almost, I can almost bet money, right? If I go and I talk to someone and they sound really successful, right? They're like doing some awesome stuff. They're an entrepreneur, they're running a business, they're making lots of money. Almost guaranteed, I can ask them, have you read How to Win Friends and Influence People? And they'll say yes. Almost guaranteed, right? There's a bunch of books like that some of them more so than others, but pretty much, really successful people have read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right? There's a lot of these kinds of books out there. I could make a whole list. And so, yeah, I mean, we were comparing lists. We're actually gonna share some of the lists, because there were some of the books that he recommended that I hadn't read and that I had read that he hadn't read. And so, and it was like a gold mine to me. I'm like, oh, someone who understands this, who gets this and reads these books. And it's because it is a gold mine, because these books, right, getting all this mentorship, getting the right view in life is gold. That's what makes success. I mean, my life turned around when I started reading some of these books, getting introduced to some of these concepts. I think Brandon talks about his story about like his life really turning around when he read Tony Robbins, the what is it called, Ultimate Power, right? Tony Robbins, by the way, is a great guy. I'm actually going to his seminar in December, the Date with Destiny seminar. So I'll let you guys know how that works out. But anyway, my point is basically this. Look, it's great. I mean, it's good that you're listening to help videos. We could call this self-help, right? I hate to use that word, but self-help videos on YouTube. That's great. That's awesome, right? But make sure that you're reading books. I can't give you all the knowledge you need in life in 5 minutes. Well, it's supposed to be 5 minutes, but it ends up being like 12-minute videos. I can't do that. I don't have the answers, right? But I know where to find them. That's the key. And so here's kind of 2 things I would leave you with as a takeaway. Actually, maybe it'll be 3. So the first thing is you need to have a wish list with a list of books that you prioritize in order. What you don't want to do is waste your time reading crap books, especially if you don't read many books and it takes you a long time to get through them. So get a list of good books. One habit I've developed maybe it annoys some people, but I don't care because it makes me successful, is whenever I talk to someone successful, I've had plenty of, I've talked to other millionaires besides me, and I've talked to a lot of billionaires out there, and I always ask them, what books would you recommend? What top books would you recommend? And that's how I get my book list, right? Especially if they get, and it always happens, multiple people recommend the same book. So get your book list together, prioritize them, make sure you know what you're going to be reading next, so you've got a list of books so that you're never stuck and buy some crappy book, okay? Put soft skills on there. No, I'm just kidding. But really do it. Anyway, that's my book, by the way. If you're just watching this video, you have no idea. Soft Skills, Software Developer's Life Manual. Anyway, I don't want to plug my book. But what I do want to say is do that. Have a list. Second of all, have a reading habit. Okay, so your reading habit should be, getting something like Audible in place where you're listening to audiobooks, or you're reading every night while walking on the treadmill, something like that, right? Get a habit in place so that you're continually reading books. I probably go through like 50 books a year, maybe a little bit more, depends. And sometimes I reread books, but you gotta have a habit. You gotta be doing this. You should at least be reading 1 book a month, right? Because you're not going to grow. I mean, and again, I'm emphasizing this point because I realized this weekend, and I talked to multiple people, I'm just picking out Brandon Carter because our book lists really click together, but all the successful people that I talked to at that conference that were making millions of dollars online or making millions of dollars in general, they read all the same books. Like it's almost a given. It's almost a given. I've never really met someone super successful who didn't have a huge list of books that they read. So this is key because there's so much information out there, right? And you can't absorb it all. So get your book list together, get a habit together, and then do it and execute on that. And the third one is one I already mentioned, but basically when you get the chance to meet interesting people, successful people, ask them what they recommend that you read. Like, get that information, and that's it. I mean, if you do that, your life will change. It will, because what you put in your head, it comes out. It's what you think about. When I wanted to, I mean, you can just test this theory. Like, if you watch a lot of videos on YouTube about playing video games, you're going to be interested in that, and you're going to start doing that, right? When I read a lot of real estate investment books, I was very much interested in real estate. So what goes in is what comes out, and you got to put a lot of good in, and you got to kind of trust the process, right? I always talk about this idea of trusting the process. If you read good books, You will get good results. It's going to happen. It may take some time, but you just have to trust that process. So keep up the habit, keep doing it. Obviously, you have to put things into action. You have to take action. But this is a baseline. This is a baseline for success, and it's almost necessary. I would say it is necessary because in today's world, you have to have a whole room full of mentors in order to be successful because there's just too much knowledge. You can't learn everything by trial and error. You need help. I need help. I still have so much to learn, but I know what to do now. I know where to find it. I wish someone, if you're younger out there, I wish someone earlier in my life would have told me, would have said, when I was like 16 years old, would have said, hey John, if you start reading these books, here's a list of books. Here's these 100 books that start with these books. Read these books and your life is going to be super successful. Man, I would have been light years ahead of where I am now. It took me until I didn't start to realize this stuff until my late 20s. I'm 35 now, but I didn't see it until like my late 20s. And then I started to figure this out. I started reading these books. So I had to play catch up. But, if you're starting out, if you're young now, man, just do it. Don't, books are really, they really are the key to success, and you can test this. I mean, once you start reading books, especially a lot of the books I mentioned here, and I'll probably put together a huge list. I'm gonna start doing some reviews on books actually too, because I think that will be valuable. But once you start doing that, you're gonna notice, not only you're gonna notice that things are gonna start changing in your life, but you're gonna notice other people. You're gonna connect with them, and you're gonna instantly recognize the people that are well read. And I'm not saying it to brag, but I'm just saying, like, when I go into a room, when I start having a conversation with someone, because these ideas, these concepts, they come up, I'm like, man, I know what book you read. I know it because I recognize it, right? It's like, and I could probably classify like 5 or 6 books that someone's read just because of that. And every time anyone ever is talking about a book, most of the time I've read that book. So I have something to say about it. So there's a lot of value in this. And I know this is advice that a lot of people ignore, but if you do this, implement this in a year, let's see where your life is. Let's see what changes in your life. I guarantee you it's going to change, and you'll thank me for it. Anyway, that's it. I'll talk to you next time. Subscribe. That's all I got to say. All right.